Doesn't matter, not playing.
All right, good evening. This is meeting number 5 of this year. The Village Board of Trustees for the Village of Depew, May 22nd, 2023, and we're at about 7:05. Sorry for the delay. We'll start with the pledge from Trustee Kraft.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if you just remain standing for a second, we'll go with this one tonight. God of justice and mercy, thank you for the gift of life and the opportunity to serve the people of our village. Help us to act with character and conviction. Help us to listen with understanding and goodwill. Help us to speak with charity and restraint. Give us a spirit of service. Remind us that we are stewards of your authority, and guide us to be the leaders your people need. Help us see the humanity and dignity of those who disagree with us, and to treat all persons, no matter how weak or poor, with the reverence your creation deserves. And finally, Father, renew us with the strength of your presence and the joy of helping to build a community worthy of your human person. We ask this as your sons and daughters, confident in your goodness and love. Amen. Trustee Hammernick with the notification of fire exits.
The emergency exit is located to my left and to the rear of the room. In the event of an alarm or emergency, please move in an orderly fashion to the exit and evacuate the building.
Roll call.
Trustee Hammernick.
Here.
Trustee Zimba.
Here.
Trustee Kraft.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Adolph.
Here.
And Mayor Peterson.
Here. First item tonight is approve the village board meeting minutes from the May 8th, 2023 meeting.
Honorable Mayor and Board of Trustees, I make the following motion and move for its adoption, that we approve the village board meeting minutes for May 8th, 2023.
I second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Accept the zoning board meeting minutes from the April 27th, 2023 meeting.
Honorable Mayor and Board of Trustees, I make the following motion to accept the zoning board meeting minutes of April 27th, 2023. Number 1, Christian Newman for the property located at 27 Meadow Lawn Road, Depew, New York, of Chapter 260, 260-24, parentheses A, parentheses 2, to allow them to construct an addition to an existing attached garage within the required 25 feet rear yard setback. Granted.
I second the motion.
Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Hammernick.
Yes.
Trustee Zimba.
Yes.
Trustee Kraft.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Adolph.
Yes.
And Mayor Peterson.
Yes. Tonight you'll be able to come to the podium here for any of the agenda items only for public comment or questions until later on in the meeting when we have a general public concerns and comments section. So first thing tonight, I'll be appointing a part-time code officer for our Justice Court. Next up is a resolution to sign, permission to sign a grant resolution. This is for Phase 7 of the DEC consent order project. It's number 7 of 11, actually. And this is to apply for WIA funds, which is New York State Water Infrastructure Improvement Act. They have been very good to the village over the years, and could be up to 25% of the total cost of that particular section of the project. Next item is permission by the fire department to use the chief's vehicle to travel to the State Chiefs Show and Expo in Syracuse on June 15th. Next item is permission to advertise for a public hearing on cannabis dispensaries. So for those that have been paying attention over the years, this is not the first one we'll be having. As we get closer to actually shops applying to set up in the village of Depew. We want to open it up again to the public to come and express any concerns they might have. Next up is approve the summer concert series, which starts June 29th and goes through Thursday, August 17th. That's a total of 8 concerts. And I know Regina stocks it full with food trucks, so should be, hopefully we get some great weather. And again, that's we line up sponsors from individuals, businesses. We're currently at just about 6,000 of the 8,000 that we need to raise. Approve the MS4 report. This is again for
Stormwater management.
stormwater. Thank you. We have that. So if you want to read the whole thing, it's on the website.
And I believe they'll have a copy in the clerk's office too.
Okay. Next is permission to sign the Student Resource Officer Agreement, again with the Depew Central School District, Union Free School District. This is a 3-year agreement that takes us this year, next, and then the year after that, 25-26. It's a little more accurately reflects the cost of the officer that serves over there, is the best I can tell you. So it was something that we worked on for about a month to get the numbers a little more favorable to the village. So, but they're fine with it. I know that SRO Scott Hosfeld does a great job there. Next up is permission to sign the NOCO agreement. So NOCO Energy won the geothermal project, part of the pavilion in Fireman's Park. And a part of the incentives that we were going to get on the back end were determined by looking at some of our electric and gas bills. Once they saw our electric and gas bills, they offered that they could save the village some money. So we are tonight accepting their offer for an 18-month agreement at fixed costs.
Yep, at a fixed supply rate for that 18 months for both our electric and natural gas. So it'll help us in budgeting a little bit better.
Right. So if anybody has any comments or concerns on those items, you're welcome to take the podium. Paul Spada.
Hi, Paul Sprata, 58 Argus Drive, Depew. One question on this number 4. How many are applying for that cannabis dispensary, and when is the hearing?
As far as applying, it's funny, we were talking about that tonight. It's hard to determine who's actually in line for the license. They seem to be just fishing a little bit for locations. So we have 3, is it?
They said 4.
3 for one specific location, so there's more to it than that. We're doing that on
Our
June
next meeting.
June 12th, 7 p.m.
You'll be here.
And that's going to be in this room
During the regular board meeting.
during a regular board meeting? Okay.
Yeah.
On that dispensaries, they have to be a certain distance from schools and playgrounds and
Working
stuff,
on
aren't
it.
they? You're working on that? Okay. Just want to make sure.
Yeah, we had quite an open discussion on that tonight.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. All right, we'll go to Dave. He's one of our regulars.
Dave Burkhardt, 5 Bottom Lee. Can you run again that NOCO agreement for the gas and electric? We paying so much a month, or
No, just part of our regular bill.
Yeah.
Instead of paying National Fuel, you're gonna pay them now?
No, we're still paying National Fuel and
NYSEG.
directly. They're just the supplier of it, so they get it at a certain rate and are able to supply it through NYSEG, and we get it for a fixed rate through them.
And they guarantee that you're gonna save money?
Yes.
Okay.
It's almost like budget billing, but it's not. At least we know. It all depends upon how much, gas and electric we use that month that we're going to get the bill for, but we have a fixed amount of what the cost of that is coming in, as opposed to it varying by what the market dictates the day that your meter is read.
Yeah, I think it sounds like what they send me in the mail, they call them marketers, and they guarantee like 3% or 10% of your bill saving. So
Yep.
it sounds like the same type of
Yep.
thing then.
It's just another way for us to save money and kind of remain on budget.
3 administrations ago, there was an agreement signed with a different company, and
I thought I remembered something like that.
honestly, I think we're probably just taken advantage of a little bit. So when NOCO came in to review our bills, they pointed that out, and they're very competitive. And since they're partnering with us on the geothermal, they were interested in helping us with the electric and gas. So it's going to save the village some money. Estimated?
Comparably, looking at what we paid last year to what they could have offered at someone at the similar time, it looked like almost in half, but again, it's all depending upon the market that day and how it was last year. We're coming in now on a fixed rate, and it'll just help us
Okay.
to save.
When it's, all done, I'll probably forget, but can you let me know how much we actually save, like 6 months from now?
6 months from now, remind me, Dave, and I'll let you know.
All right.
We'll book you for 6 months, then I'll put us at about October. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Thomas Spanos. I'm actually a friend of Sam Alba's. We went to law school together. I'm a cannabis attorney.
Pull that mic up. There you go.
There we are. Sorry about that.
all right.
My name is Tom Spanos. I'm a cannabis attorney. I live in Lancaster. But Sam asked me to be here tonight. We happened to run into each other earlier today, and we were discussing municipal rulemaking with regards to cannabis. I'm actually working together with the law school as well at UB to try and develop some helpful guidance for municipalities just like you guys with regards to this local rulemaking. So I wanted to be available in case you all have any questions. I do have some feedback just preliminarily on the local rules that are currently being drafted. Happy to also address questions that were brought up before, but just wanted to see if any of you have any questions initially.
Well, I did, because I read on the New York State was 1,000 feet for churches, and then I most recently read 500.
Right. So in the cannabis legislation itself, the cannabis law that they passed 2 years ago, there are a number of different setbacks that are built right into it. So for schools, it's 500 feet. For houses of worship, it's 200 feet. So for those types of things, I know you have some rules drafted up for them. It's a little bit redundant because the state rules are actually more prohibitive. One thing that you are allowed to do under the regulations, and that this might be a good thing to kind of tailor your local law that you're drafting right now, is you're allowed to designate a setback for youth facilities. It can be a pretty broad, parks, facilities.
Daycares.
The way that they kind of denote it is where the expected population of users of that facility, whatever it may be, is majority going to be under 18 or even under 21, I believe. So in that way, you're allowed to say, okay, we don't want it near parks. We don't want it, daycare facilities. Of course, they might even qualify as schools. So you'd be able to have an even higher setback. One thing that they are considering in the regulations right now that hasn't been finalized is the setbacks between dispensaries or on-site consumption facilities. I don't know if you opted in for both, but the way that they're currently setting it up is for dispensaries it would be 1,000 feet, and then they, if it's a smaller municipality, which Depew might qualify as, it would be a 2,000-foot setback. Whereas for bars and lounges and things where you're allowed to consume, I think they went with a more lenient of 3 facilities within 500 feet. So they're a little bit more lenient with the lounges and such. But one way to think about it is that under the cannabis law, they do try and focus any local rulemaking on the time, place, and manner of retail businesses. So that is the retail dispensaries, the lounges, potentially some rulemaking with regards to delivery, but that may be preempted as well. But where they don't want to see local rulemaking overlap with the state is for those on the production side where they have no public-facing business. So that's cultivators, processors, and distributors. As long as they're complying with like-to-like local zoning rules, so for example, whatever your rules are with regards to other agricultural grow operations, the state is already imposing other security restrictions and things. So where if you start to kind of get into that area of rulemaking, the state might step in and say that it's preempted.
I'm sorry. Hi, Tom.
Hi, how are you?
I'm sorry, I might have missed it. So
Sure.
you said consumption, there were 30 buildings within...
3, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
3 within 500 feet.
3 within
Not
5...
30. I apologize
Yeah, no,
if I misspoke.
That's okay.
Yeah, that would be a lot.
Yeah. And then you said dispensaries, they haven't stated that yet?
So they're finalizing the rule. It's been a long process.
Yeah.
How can
I'll
you
tell
just be finalizing when they're handing out licenses?
No, so they have a few different programs that they've done. So there was legislation passed to allow the growers and the processors to get started sooner. So that's how we have conditional growers and conditional processors. And they wanted to give them a place to sell, so they started a conditional dispensary program as well. So that's probably what you've seen a lot of headlines about, is these conditional dispensaries. So they had special qualifications for those, a little bit of which is requiring a business background for all their applicants, because they want them to have the know-how to actually run a successful business so that they could be, more likely to succeed and not just fail. The difficulty has just been with exactly what you're struggling with right now. With all the setbacks and everything, there's a very limited number of locations you can even locate these businesses in. And so you'll have 3-4 businesses that are trying to get into the same location because you may just have landlords that don't want to have cannabis businesses there. They're perfectly allowed to do that. So one of the largest real estate firms in Buffalo has actually said they're not interested at all. And so that's just taken a huge number of businesses, locations off the map. So you'll see a lot of competitiveness for what locations you're actually able to properly zone within your village. And if you want to encourage those businesses to succeed or to just help them be where you'd like them to be, identifying green zones for them in advance that meet whatever your local requirements may be is actually a huge benefit for them, as well as just you're allowed to develop your own criteria for whether you approve or disapprove of a business. In the cannabis law, every retail business that applies for a license has to notify you all first. So that's for the retail side, the dispensaries and the consumption lounges. So there's a form that will actually come to you either up 30 days and up to 270 days before they actually apply to the state. And that gives the local municipality the opportunity to say, this seems like a good business to us, or it doesn't. Right now, the state has been really deferential to those requests from the municipalities. So just as example, 2 of the nonprofits that got conditional dispensary licenses went up on the same day before the planning board down in New York City. And the first one got approved, and the second one, they didn't like their presentation as much. They got disapproved, and they had to look elsewhere. So there is that already built into to the cannabis law as well.
So when our code people get the call, where's this form that they're supposed to receive? Is the person looking for it has to get it?
Yes, the person who's looking to apply is required to notify If it's your code enforcement officer, then that's who it should go to. That might also be another way that you could help prospective applicants, is just telling them, this is our person to receive this form, right? Because the state is going to put out the form, and then the applicant is just required to do that. If they don't, then the state will notify you and it'll delay their application so that you have the appropriate amount of time to consider it.
And these distances, schools 500, churches 200, you can't exceed that?
You cannot go below it. So they can't be closer than 500 feet to a school. They cannot be closer than 200 feet to a house of worship. They have to be farther.
Right.
Right.
Okay. So we've got a real problem with our law then, because it says 200 feet.
For everything. Right. And so the state is, that's why I was saying it's a little bit redundant, because the state's already above that with regards to schools. But where you are allowed to put in your own local law, just to have a new designation, is with regards to those youth facilities that I was talking about. So you can designate, okay.
Like 1,000 or something?
I believe it's limited to 500 feet, just like schools. But I'll double check and I'll be in touch with Sam
What
on
would a
that.
daycare fall under? Would that be a youth facility or a school?
And that's where I think that's a little bit difficult. I think you could make a strong argument that that should be considered a school. But, I mean, you could do the same setback with a youth facility and just designate daycares as well. You get the same result.
One of the biggest problems I see with real estate in Depew is that there's so many, I guess I'll call them strip mall daycare facilities.
Right.
That would take a lot of places out of the running. So we kind of built in, I hope to build in some discretion with our planning board where they can look at the proximity requirements. Is that going to violate the state law?
It's not going to violate the state law, but they're not going to be able to get a license regardless from the state if they're
they're
that
within
close.
proximity.
So that is one thing to consider, and that might already, like I said, if they consider daycares to be schools, that's already out of your hands. The state has already set that at 500 feet, and the way that they measure it is just like liquor licenses, from doorway to doorway. So it's not to like the property line or something like that.
Well, one thing that came up in the pre-board meeting, Don, our code enforcement officer, mentioned is, what if a daycare center suddenly opens next to a pre-approved cannabis shop?
They're grandfathered in if the facility wasn't there when they got licensed. That's a good question.
That was my answer, but I wasn't sure if I was right. After
Right, you were correct. I mean, the other thing to keep in mind is that you can have kind of broad restrictions with regards to certain activities without necessarily singling out cannabis businesses. So if you want to have local laws that relate to smoking businesses, smoking or vaping businesses, you can apply those rules across the board. But if you say, right, all consumption businesses, because we're concerned about smoke, we're going to have this setback. Well, you could have cannabis businesses like a cafe or something that don't actually allow smoking, that only serve edibles or something like that. So that concern might not fit as well, right? Then you might want to just look at, okay, how do we license, or how do we permit other cafes, right? The state is already handling security requirements, operational requirements, and making sure that your local police chief knows, what these businesses are doing and the safeguards that they have. So, how much further beyond that do you need to go? It really depends on, where you would like to be. Yeah.
Awesome. Anybody?
Real quick, thanks for coming tonight.
My pleasure.
There is a New York State Cannabis Regulatory Board, correct?
Yes, the Office of Cannabis Management.
How representative is Western New York on that board?
Adam Perry is one of the Cannabis Control Board members. He is I believe he's a UB Law alumni, so we do have some representation on there. There are also alumni who went to school with Sam and I, The Arthur Duncan, I don't know if you remember him. He's on the Cannabis Advisory Board, which is the other board that kind of makes recommendations to the Cannabis Control Board on these things. So we do have some representation, thankfully.
I'm sorry, you said Duncan?
Yeah, his last name is Duncan.
Okay, thank you.
Of course, my pleasure. And just with regards to the question that the gentleman raised before, we do have some conditional licensees that are currently looking for businesses. There's likely to be a huge uptick in the fall when general licensing is expected to open once they finalize these regulations this summer.
So for the Village of Depew, is there a limit that they would allow to be in 5.4 square mile village?
So With those distance setbacks that they have, there's just going to be an absolute limit.
Yes, I was under the impression from 2 years ago, we may be only looking at 1 or 2, but it's
That's entirely
going to be based upon what the distances are. So there could conceivably be more.
And there could conceivably be less.
Right.
Because if you're making the argument, okay, a third cannabis dispensary comes in and comes before you all, you might think, okay, like how much is that really impacting prices? Are you really going to be able to compete that much more? We already have 2 businesses here, and however many there are in a 5 square mile radius. So you can make an argument, we don't want to approve you because we think we have a pretty well-saturated market, and the Cannabis Control Board's likely to respect that. I think it only really becomes problematic for municipalities that have opted in, but then try and stop all cannabis businesses from actually coming in. That's where they have rules regarding what's unreasonably impracticable, and I think that's where the state is more likely to step in. But if you were intending to have 1 or 2, the way that I always try and compare it is, well, how many liquor stores do you have in town, right? Eventually, when we have a well-established market, you should see something on par.
So Office of Cannabis Management, though, will they be like the SLA?
Yes, they are actually.
I mean, where,
they're
like,
almost
as an
subsumed into
example, on Broadway, there was a small shop that the guy that owned it was looking to have a liquor store put in there and working with a potential owner of that, and was shut down due to proximity to one just up the road.
It's entirely possible. There is the ability, they just actually put this into the revised regulations that they released last week, that they have discretion to only overlook the 1,000 or 2,000 foot between the businesses. They can overlook that if there's a good argument, right? If you only have 1 dispensary in town and another one comes in and says, there's no competition, everybody's paying high prices for nothing really good, right? So let me come in and I'll help bring more competition. And then they might overlook the 2,000 foot setback between dispensaries and say, no, he has a very good point, let's give him a license.
Did you say it's 1,000 feet or 2,000 feet between dispensaries?
It depends on the size of the locality. I think Depew would be, it's 20,000 people or more or less. So if it's more than 20,000, you're less. So then it'll be a 2,000 foot setback.
It'll be 2,000?
Between dispensaries, yes.
Great. And you also stated, so when the person is looking to apply, they need to provide the form. Can you just clarify what form that is again?
It's a municipal notification form.
Okay.
So all retail businesses, that is the dispensaries and the on-site consumption, are required before applying to OCM to notify the local municipality that they're looking in.
Okay, so when our code enforcement receives calls, they need to, basically ask for the form.
Yes.
And then if they aren't not provided the form, and that's one way to tell these people aren't as serious, maybe.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Because they're allowed to get, I apologize for
No, you're okay.
They are allowed to apply to OCM for a provisional license without a location. And so that gives them a 12-month period if they are provisionally licensed to find a location.
Gotcha.
Once they do, then they need to notify you or whichever municipality that they're looking in. But that's the only...
That's a quick way to tell if they know what they're talking about.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
And should our code enforcement direct them to that, or do you think it's advisable that they should direct them to that, or maybe if they're not that serious that they know that they should just say, at this time, we need the proper documentation and end it at that?
That might be the best way to go about it, because they should already be aware of this just in terms of their application requirements for the state. If they don't know that, then yes, I think that's a pretty good indication that they're not very serious yet about their business.
Good, that's great
What
information.
was the name of the form that we should be asking for?
It's just called a municipal notification form. It's required in the cannabis law itself that they have to notify you. So you could actually get some businesses start reaching out now, because they're allowed to notify the municipality up to 270 days before they apply. Well, within 270 days, we might have some application stuff ready to go. The regulations are expected to be finished by August. So that would mean, you could have businesses start reaching out now and trying to provide that information to you. So it could start happening pretty soon.
I've already had a few places reach out to me and, you know, we're all kind of learning together, so I'm not really sure what sort of information to give. I do have one question for you.
Sure.
Because a lot of our commercial business district is very close to residential. Did the state put any requirements down for setbacks between commercial and residential if you're gonna open up a cannabis dispensary?
The only requirement that they put in is that it can't be in residential.
Okay.
So as long as it's C,
It can abut it, right.
so that would be like transit with C2, right?
With the residential behind it, yeah.
Right. Yeah. But then they also fall into all the requirements for filtration and cameras and fencing.
Exactly right.
Signs and all of that, right?
Exactly right. So those types of security requirements are exactly what the state is imposing. So for cultivators, they have to have privacy fences. I mean, for all operators across the licensing spectrum, they have to have sufficient security. So that's security cameras. For dispensaries, that's every register has to be covered, every entrance has to be covered, limited access doors, so locking, you know, hopefully key card locking type of things. The type of security that you would hopefully see at a pharmacy, right, where they're already dealing with high scheduled substances, you know, and we want them to be operating in exactly.
Or like a bank.
Or like a bank. Well, considering the amount of cash they're going to have on hand, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Everyone's
So-
fighting for that one location.
Yeah.
Is, in terms of our local regulation of this law, right, that we put into effect, is there anything that we can do in terms of, you know, entering the premises, or is that done at like the state level?
Do you mean for inspections and such?
Inspections, or to see if anything else is going on the premises?
Yes, absolutely. This was actually something that they really worked to expand the authority for both the localities and the state in the local, in the recent budget talks that they did. So there was a big expansion of that gives peace officers and police officers the ability to come in and inspect these businesses.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So we can do it on a local level as well?
Absolutely.
Great.
I think you have a question out there?
So that means none of these stores could be located like on George Urban? Because you could have a storefront right on George Urban, but right around the corner, that's residential area.
Well, that's fine.
Right.
Good,
So,
you can have it there.
yeah, you can have it there. I mean,
You can have it.
you can have it there.
Because that's zone C2 there, right?
Yeah. George Urban, most George Urban is C2 and some M1, but they all abut residential behind them, so.
But I mean, just considering your, you know, which areas you have zoned for commercial. I mean, I have clients down in Findlay Lake, also a smaller municipality. They're going to have the 2,000-foot setback. Their commercial district might only be 2,000 feet, right? So if they, you know,
They'd have to apply for a waiver to get,
and they have to make that
relief
argument.
from that. Yeah.
Exactly right. But, you know, if that's what the town is looking to have, you know, if that's what they think that they can support, you can also push
So
back.
do we grant the relief for that waiver, or would that be the state that would have to grant that, or both?
I mean, honestly, the state has been deferring a lot to local judgment. So I think if you put your foot down, they would probably respect it. But I mean, they might also put their foot down as well and say, hey, you know, the pricing that we're seeing at this dispensary is pretty par for the state, and we don't want to, you know, compromise their business, because they want to see the dispensaries be successful as well. That's why they put these setbacks in the first place.
If I go on the OCM website, are all of these stipulations on that website? Like for the municipalities, so that I know what questions to ask, what to look for, who's inspecting what and when, timelines.
This is exactly what I'm working with the law school on, is to make it more accessible, because yes, it's all on there and it is buried in the regulations.
Exactly.
And so to make it so that you don't have to go digging through those to try and figure it all out, that was part of the reason I was picking Sam's brain earlier today, was to see how this could be useful for you all. Because that's, you know, we want this to be nice and broad application, so that exactly you know what to ask for, you know what the expectation from the state is as well. So that way you don't have to waste your time with stuff that the state is already going to be covering and checking, right? They're going to be fingerprinting and background checking everybody who applies for these licenses. So that's something you don't have to do,
Right.
for example,
Okay.
right? But absolutely. So it is on there. Sometimes they put out fact sheets that make it a little bit more digestible, but they're somewhat few and far between. So I'd be happy to get your card, or I'll just get your info from Sam, and I can help you out with that.
I'll get you my card, thank you.
Very good.
Everybody all set?
Mr. Sprata?
Yes.
I just had a question for him here.
Yeah.
What's become popular in the past couple of years are smoke shops.
Yes.
I mean, they're popping up quicker than Tim Hortons.
Yes.
Are they going to be eligible for cannabis distributor, the ones that are established already?
So this is a really big sticking point with the state right now. So this is part of why they made all those changes to the budget with regards to these authorizations to go in and inspect, because there is so many illicit shops currently operating, and they wanted to make it clear what the authorities were, and that our police have the authority to go in and start fining these places. They increased the fines exponentially on these violations. So it is possible, and I know that the state has provided some guidance to other municipalities. I've worked with Jamestown on this, and they reached out to the state to just get guidance before all these budget changes were made, so that they could shut down a couple of illicit shops. But they do want to see that happening. They want to see the enforcement happening, because that's what drives these illicit markets to actually apply for licensure, right? We want to drive them to the legal market. Now, that being said, there are disqualifications in the regulations that if these people have been operating illegally, that they can be disqualified. So if that's something that you want to make sure you root out, then all you have to do is go around, look at the properties that are currently doing this and the businesses that are running them. There are ways to actually go after the landlords if you want to, but just documenting who these parties are will give you that information down the line to say, we're not going to approve you because we know you were operating illegally before.
So to that point, Kate and I made a phone call to NICOM and spoke with our attorneys there, Wade Beltramo and Mr. Mancini. And he offered that your local district attorney's office probably not enforcing it. And even our own PD went to an open house, and they weren't totally interested in prosecuting. But they did mention Office of Cannabis Management. So Kate reached out to them, and there could be, tonight it was the one shop that she blew in, all of a sudden is closed. So.
No, I totally understand, and it's been a frustration for everybody in the market, because my clients are patiently waiting for their opportunity to license,
Right.
and they see these smoke shops raking in money hand over fist, not following any of the rules. So just identifying them at this point is a significant step towards making sure that they end up paying, down the line.
Yeah, and to that point, that's what in our conversation with Cannabis Management Office was that they will blacklist that one, basically.
Exactly.
Not playing by the rules.
So that is absolutely a very strong approach that you can take.
Good. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. It was a real
Thanks.
pleasure.
Awesome.
Great, thank you so much.
Paul's got
One more.
Yeah, sorry.
Are you going to be here for the hearing that we're having?
I'll make. I have to double check. I might be out of town, but it's on June 12th.
Yeah.
Yes,
Very good. If possible, I will be here. Absolutely.
thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you all.
Sorry, we didn't plant that.
No, it's okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. All set? Let's move along. First item is mine. Appoint a part-time court officer pursuant to Section 4-400 of Village Law. I, Mayor Kevin Peterson, do hereby appoint Justin Everett to the position of part-time court officer at the pay rate per the budget effective May 23rd, 2023. I need a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Hammernick?
Yes.
Trustee Zimba?
Yes.
Trustee Kraft?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Adol?
Yes.
And Mayor Peterson?
Yes.
That's approved.
Item 2, permission to sign a grant resolution.
Honorable Mayor and Board of Trustees, I make the following motion and move for its adoption. Whereas the Village of Depew Village Board supports the submission of the New York State Water Infrastructure Improvement Act, WIIA, grant application on behalf of the village for a wastewater system improvement project, hereinafter referred to as the project. And whereas the village, or the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation, EFC, administers grants to assist municipalities in funding water infrastructure projects that improve wastewater system quality and protect public health. And whereas an engineering report entitled Engineering Report Phase 7 Sanitary Sewer Evaluation Survey, SSES, and Corrective Action Plan, CAP, dated June 2022, recommends implementing the project to help improve wastewater quality and protect public health. And now therefore be it resolved that the village board authorizes Municipal Solutions, Inc. to prepare an application for Water Infrastructure Improvement Act grant funds from the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation, EFC. Be it further resolved that the village board authorizes Mayor Kevin Peterson to execute the application for Water Infrastructure Improvement Act grant funds from the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation, EFC. Be it further resolved that the Village of Depew Board fully supports the project and the submission of the WIIA grant application by the Municipal Solutions, Inc. on behalf of the village to improve wastewater quality and protect public health.
I second the motion.
Need a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Hammernick?
Yes.
Trustee Zimba?
Yes.
Trustee Kraft?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Adolph?
Yes.
Mayor Peterson?
Yes.
And that's carried.
Resolution number 3, permission to use the Depew Fire Department Chief's vehicle.
Honorable Mayor and Board of Trustees, I make the following resolution and move for its adoption. Permission is hereby granted to the Depew Fire Department to take the chief's vehicle to the State Chief Show at Expo in Syracuse on Thursday, June 15th.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that's been carried. Item 4, permission to advertise for a public hearing on cannabis dispensaries.
Honorable Mayor and Board of Trustees, I make the following motion and move for its adoption. The administrator is authorized to advertise for a public hearing to discuss local law number 3 of 2023, cannabis dispensaries in the Village of Depew. The public hearing will be June 12, 2023 at 7 p.m. in the council chambers, 85 Manitow Street, Depew, New York, 14043.
I second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's carried. Resolution 5, permission to use Veterans Park for the summer concert series.
Honorable Mayor and Board of Trustees, I make the following motion and move for its adoption. Permission is hereby granted to the Yacht Fathers to use Veterans Park gazebo for their concert on Thursday, June 29th, 2023 at 7 p.m. And permission is granted to the Carnival Kids Steel Orchestra, CKSO, to use Veterans Park gazebo for their concert on Thursday, July 6th, 2023 at 7 p.m. And permission is granted to Tequila Sunrise to use Veterans Park gazebo for their concert on Thursday, July 13th, 2023 at 7 p.m. And permission is hereby granted to Terry Buckwald to use Veterans Park gazebo for his concert on Thursday, July 20th, 2023 at 7 p.m. And permission is hereby granted to Hit and Run to use Veterans Park gazebo for their concert on Thursday, July 27th, 2023 at 7 p.m. And permission is hereby granted to the Lancaster Town Band to use Veterans Park gazebo for their concert on Thursday, August 3rd, 2023 at 7 p.m. And permission is hereby granted to Double Shot to use Veterans Park gazebo for their concert on Thursday, August 10th, 2023 at 7 p.m. And permission is hereby granted to Envy's Mixtape to use Veterans Park gazebo for their concert on Thursday, August 17th, 2023 at 7 p.m. Permission is also granted for use of electric power and use of restrooms at the South Side Fire Hall.
I second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. Number 6, approve the MS4 report.
Honorable Mayor and Board of Trustees, I make the following motion and move for its adoption. Be it resolved, the MS4 report is completed and available for review on the Village of Depew website.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. Resolution 7, permission to sign the school resource officer agreement.
Honorable Mayor and Board of Trustees, I make the following motion and move for its adoption. Whereas there have been recent events involving attacks against schools that have shown the need for greater security and a greater police presence within schools. And whereas the Depew Union Free School District has budgeted $85,000 to fund a full-time school district resource officer for the 2023-2024 school year, $90,100 for the 2024-2025 school year, and $95,506 for the 2025-2026 school year. And whereas the Village of Depew Police Department has had a full-time presence within the Depew schools throughout the 2022-2023 school year, and is uniquely qualified to continue to provide a local police officer to act as school resource officer to the Depew Union Free School District on a full-time basis. And whereas the Village of Depew Police Department and the Depew Union School District has negotiated a mutually beneficial agreement to provide the services sought for the 2023, 2024, 2024 to 2025, and the 2025 to 2026 school year. Now be it resolved that the Board of Trustees shall authorize the Depew Police Department to continue to provide a school resource officer, SRO, to the Depew Union Free School District, DHS, through the term of the agreement to expire at the completion of the Depew Union Free School District's 2026 academic year.
I second the motion.
Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Hammernick,
Yes.
Trustee Zimba,
Yes.
Trustee Kraft,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Adolph,
Yes.
Mayor Peterson,
Yes.
and that's carried.
Resolution 8, permission to sign an agreement with NOCO.
Honorable Mayor and Board of Trustees, I make the following motion and move for its adoption. Be it resolved that Mayor Kevin Peterson is authorized to sign an agreement with NOCO Natural Gas and Electric for the period of June 1st, 2023 through December 1st, 2024 to switch to NOCO Natural Gas and Electric for the supplier of the electric and gas to all village accounts.
I second that motion.
Okay. Get a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Hammernick,
Yes.
Trustee Zimba,
Yes.
Trustee Kraft,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Adolph,
Yes.
and Mayor Peterson.
Yes.
And that's carried.
9, we've received employment applications for the Rec Department, Luke Jenowich, Timothy Steffens, James Cleveland, Elizabeth Steffens, Nicholas Karninski, Thomas Welsh, Marcus Huber, and Genevieve Anna, and one for our Department of Public Works, Luke Jenowich. No department head reports tonight, no unfinished or other business. Before we get to the public comments and questions, we'll give everybody an opportunity to tell a little bit about our building department, code enforcement officers.
A couple things I just want to address. It's grass cutting season, so for all you people who chronically never cut your grass and we have to come get you, we're not just cutting your grass and putting it on your taxes. We're also going to issue you a violation and put you in court. We're not a babysitting service, so please cut your grass. We also have a rash of unregistered vehicles, a ridiculous amount actually. So we are also going to be chasing you down to get rid of these unwanted, unregistered junk vehicles that are laying around.
Okay. Over to Rec, Kevin Ferguson.
See, Ernie, told you. Doesn't know my name. Calls me Rec. I told him that before that. No, tonight we started all our programs. Hockey started last Tuesday. Tonight is kickball. Wednesday you got your first softball league. Thursday is volleyball. Friday's your second softball league. Tuesdays and Thursdays is lacrosse as well. I came up with a pretty good idea. We have the hockey league on Tuesday nights, the full hockey league. We have 10 teams in that. It's sold out. But I have 10 teams on a waiting list. So what I did is I'm going to rent the rink out. It's going to go on an email list of 200 people that are on this list and on the current list. On Monday from 6 to 10 hour increments. The league's on Tuesday, so obviously not then. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday from 6 to 10, and we're going to rent it out for $80 an hour. So I think with the 10 teams that aren't playing, I think I'm going to get a lot of interest tomorrow when it hits all their emails and things like that. So I think it will be a pretty good sell. Pool's going to open up. It'll be filled by Friday. Hopefully, when Glauber gets there Tuesday, we'll get the pool up and running. So it'll be a month ahead of schedule. We just want to make sure that everything's in order for it. That's all I got.
Okay. I will go to our police department with Captain Tim Norick.
Thank you, Mayor. Over the next 2 weeks, the police department is going to be taking part in a statewide Click It or Ticket, Buckle Up New York campaign. We're going to have extra patrols out there for seatbelt enforcement. And that's under the Governor's Traffic Safety Committee grant. Other than that, we have 2 new police officers that are going to be graduating the academy June 2nd, and they'll be entering the field training portion, which will be about 12 to 14 weeks, and then they'll be out on the road on their own. That's it.
Any update on the new dispatch center?
Getting closer the next couple of weeks, hopefully. So
Okay.
the village department's been working a lot on it to get that done, so it's looking good.
All right. So we're a little short, and we don't have our fire chief here tonight. We don't have our DPW superintendent tonight. Our Office of Emergency Management guys are someplace else tonight. And we don't have our elected official rep, Elizabeth, so we used the meeting time a little bit more wisely. So we'll go to this side here, our legal team.
Sure.
Village attorney,
Most
Al.
of this week has been working on our law, our cannabis zoning law, and it was fortuitous. I had coffee with Tom today, and he was able to tell me all the things I did wrong and said he'd eloquently tell the trustees about them without throwing me under the bus. So thank you, Tom. I really appreciate your help.
He does everything with a smile. He's awesome.
It's contagious. We have a couple Article 7s wrapping up. The orders have come through, so nothing too earth-shattering there. All prospective relief, so no tax refunds. We looked into a $18,000 check we got by surprise from a class action that settled last year. There's no way to challenge the amount or anything at this point. The deadline was last October, so we should be happy with our $18,000 and talk to engineering and Department of Public Works about if there's anything those funds should be allocated for. That dealt with a lawsuit against Monsanto for PCBs ending up in the water and things like that. Really high-level toxic torque stuff I don't fully understand, but hopefully engineering can help us explain it. So, otherwise, if anyone has any questions for me that I haven't answered, send me a follow-up email. I'm happy to get to it. And that's about it.
Is that what we have to clean up with that grant resolution, all the PCBs in the water?
I think that's something different.
Totally different, yeah. Totally different. Village administrator, anything?
Not really. I don't think we're getting close to getting our crash room almost complete after such a long process. And yeah, I think that's
Okay.
it.
Yeah, conference room?
Yeah, the
Yes.
crash room, conference
Oh,
room.
crash room.
Crash room.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Trustee Zimba?
I don't have all the specifics for the July 8th home hazardous waste event in Elma yet. It should come out a month in advance, so they're thinking June 8th. So when I have that information, I'll share it. And in closing, we're coming up on Memorial Day weekend, so I want to thank all the veterans and those that served and lost. Thank you for all the privileges that I enjoyed today. That's all.
Okay. Trustee Hammernick.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to say, hopefully when you walked into the building tonight, you all saw how beautiful the front of our village looks. Thank you to Centerpoint Church that came with all their volunteers and did that yesterday. Also, the Lancaster Depew Elma Chamber of Commerce is having a blood drive. If anybody wants any information, we challenged Cheektowaga, Hamburg, and West Seneca. So we know that Lancaster and Depew will come forward and give us your blood. Also, chicken barbecue. The community center is holding a chicken barbecue affiliated with the Depew High School Car Show on June 9th. So I have, anybody wants to order chickens ahead of time, Karupas will be doing it there for us. And a note on our community center, we are moving really along well. Our big room, our laundromat was, what do I say, Don, was inspected and passed approval. So we can open that up. We just have a few glitches that we have to get set yet. And Channel 4 is coming on Thursday at 1 p.m. To do a tour of the building and talk all about the building and give us some advertising. So it'll probably be on TV at some point. So you'll see me hiding in the corner.
You should be front and center.
But we're doing very well. And thank you to the village for the dirt. It was supposed to be delivered tomorrow, but we're putting it off for 2 weeks.
2?
2 weeks.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, our crew is helping Lancaster pave tomorrow. So DCAT's done a great job over there, Audrey. Very good. On the other side of the table, I got Trustee Kraft,
I have nothing.
Deputy Mayor Adolph.
Just want to thank Tom. I know, time's the most valuable resource, so thank you for giving us that along with the knowledge. I also want to send a shout out. Unfortunately, Ken isn't here from the DPW, but they planted additional trees for the village of Depew, and so I'm very grateful for that, helping to continue to greenify our village. So that's all for me too.
All right. So I have just a couple of things. Again, this week on Memorial Day, on Monday, the village is helping out, and the fire department's helping out, actually, with the veterans, with their annual parade. This year, they chose not to march, so the fire department will be transporting the veterans to Veterans Park. Parade will start out here at about 10:45 a.m., following a service at the Vine. The parade should end, it's only a couple blocks away, and at about 11. Depew High School Marching Band will be there. They'll be playing the national anthem, and then the veterans take over the service itself. And the fire department will be cooking the hot dogs for them and distributing drinks as well. So that's Monday, starts at 10:45 in the morning, just goes down Manitou, makes a right on Terrace, ends at Veterans Park. On this Wednesday, 4:30 here in Village Hall, the Justice Court and Honorable Judge Kathleen McDonald and our Associate Judge Paul Bumbalow and the staff upstairs is hosting a gathering to honor past Village Judge Gordon Willis, who passed away last year, and his wife will be here and his family. And I know there'll be some other guests that I've helped bring in. So 4:30 up at the courtroom, I believe, correct? We got the courtroom? On the second floor, and that's this Wednesday. And finally, our pavilion, hopefully you've been following the photos that we've been putting out on a weekly basis, usually on Saturday. It's moving right along. We're on schedule for a September opening. That's all I have. So anybody has any questions or comments? You have a 5-minute limit, by the way. We did not impose that on Tom because we were missing all those other people. Besides, he was very informative.
Oh, yeah. I got the first couple questions actually are directed towards the fire chief, but he's not here tonight. Maybe somebody else has the answers. But since our last meeting, there was that, I'm sure everybody heard about it, the big fire in Elma at the church, St. Paul's Lutheran on Main Street in Elma, just off of Transit. And after the fire, I talked to a volunteer fireman that was at that fire and said that one problem was when they went to hook up the hoses to the fire hydrant, the closest hydrant to that church didn't have enough pressure to put the fire out. So they had to, go to Plan B and go to another fire hydrant. And by that time, I think the fire started in the steeple and it engulfed the whole roof. It's a shame. I've been to that church for a couple weddings and a couple of funerals, I think. But I was just wondering, does our fire department inspect our hydrants for pressure at a regular basis, or does anybody know?
I'm a firefighter, but I don't have the answer
You don't
for
know?
you.
I think that's the county, right?
I believe so, because we
I
pay a
believe
fee
that's
to
the
each of those.
The
I
county.
mean, we do, I know that I've
The
been,
county?
Yeah.
I know that I've been on training where we'll, pull hydrants and stuff, but I don't know that we, as a fire department, check that. It's Erie County Water.
Okay.
But again, that's something we can certainly ask Chief Goth here for follow-up,
Yeah.
2 weeks.
One other thing on fire hydrants, I noticed quite a few of them in the village need repainting the yellow.
Yes.
Is that going to be addressed at all this year, I hope?
Again, I think that's the county has to maintain the fire hydrants, right? So that
I don't know. I don't know the mechanics of it.
yeah.
I don't know if it was each municipality is responsible or is it the county?
I'm not
I
sure.
know in other communities, they've had volunteers do it, but there is no, it's not in our budget.
Okay, just checking. One other thing, we've got Mighty Taco is now operating at Walden Transit, and I see a lot of cars in there, more than I've ever seen at Checkers, I think, when they were there. And I think soon that Regal Car Wash is going to open on Broadway and Transit, but I haven't seen any movement on our solar farm. Sam, you have any?
How's their permit through, everything through? I know there was an issue with the check.
No, I believe it's all been straightened out.
Yeah, I talked with the owner of the company. They're looking at the fourth quarter. So delays with product and
Yeah,
such.
that's been a couple of years in the making here,
Oh.
isn't it?
There's been
Oh,
a couple
stop it, Paul.
couples.
Well, it has been.
Oh, it's a
I
huge.
think we're way ahead of Lancaster, though,
Yeah, it's a huge
when it comes to
undertaking.
solar
Yeah,
farm.
I know it's a huge undertaking, but so was the Royal Car Wash.
Well, keep in mind,
What was that with the car wash? What'd you
Royal
say?
Car Wash.
Yeah, what about?
I says, look at how quick that went up.
well, I think that's a little bit different with
Different
the approvals
regulations.
they need. This is a split parcel where they're leasing the lower part from us and they own the upper part. We had to go through DEC environmental remediation on the lower part and then make sure the DEC approved of the rental. I think they were doing it all at once. There were disputes over what the building permit fee was going to be, which we resolved collegially, internally. There were concerns over where the road was. There's a lot that's gone into this.
There was a guy that owns a sliver right up at the road,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
and he was looking for an exorbitant amount of money for the solar company to purchase it, and they offered him what they offered us.
And he refused.
He refused, so he's got a little mailbox up there, and still the shack that's there. He had a little bit of gravel. He had New York State DOT come back in and put the curb cut back in.
Yeah.
No.
And they just went around him
Yeah.
because he wanted too much money.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things.
There's a lot of things that you,
Yeah,
happening.
I'm only asking that, a question on that, because my neighbors are asking me and,
No, that's,
I'm
we
like
appreciate you
spokesman
asking.
for
I
it,
was just
so.
razzing you a little bit, Paul.
Yeah,
It's a good
I know,
question.
I realize that, but anyhow, has anybody applied yet for chickens, domesticated chickens?
No.
Not yet.
We've had some people that put some in illicitly that we, some violations led to and they removed it.
Yeah.
But, no,
Just
we haven't had
curious.
anybody that's come in yet.
Actually, I've had 2 people in the last 2 weeks who I've sent the zoning application for
Well, there you go. Maybe
really?
we will get one.
All right, just checking to see.
I was thinking maybe, Paul, you could do some so we can get some cheaper eggs.
Yeah. I used to have chickens when I was younger.
On Argus?
No, in Chickawaga. No, please. I don't need a summons. Thank you. Thank you.
Anything from your counterpart? No, not today? Okay. All right. Good-spirited conversation. We're on to claims and accounts.
Honorable Mayor and Board of Trustees, the claims and accounts have been audited by the Finance Committee and are approved for payment as follows.
In the general fund, 1,960, or I'm sorry, 1,900, 196.
There we go.
There you go. $196,258.30 in the general fund. Community development is 0. The sewer fund is $859. Capital projects is $2,492.25 for a total of $199,609.55.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. Finally, the adjournment.
Honorable Mayor and Board of Trustees, I make the following motion. We adjourn tonight's meeting at 8:15 PM.
I second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?